I'd invite you to check in by typing your names in the chat as I read our opening words, which are Space for New Possibility by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if they are the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way. As if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we'd thought. As if we're not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible and that we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. So now I'm going to ring our chime again and let's settle into a time of meditation. Even though it snowed this week, we're experiencing the first days of spring. The trees are budding, the crocuses are up, the daffodils and the tulips are on their way. Often at this time of year, we have to wedge our awareness of these subtle changes into schedules filled with going and doing. What a gift, then, to have this opportunity to slow down, to be still, to notice. To notice the way the snow clung to the branches and gave the world a subtle white highlight, even as it melted away, even before midday. To notice the way the air seems to bless our skin as the breeze blows over, and the way our hands bless the soil as we prepare the garden for planting. Notice the way our life energy rises and bubbles in response to the sun shining on our face, the dog rolling in the grass, the colorful chalk drawings that grace the paths. Each moment only comes to us once. May we savor the sweetness of knowing that all is impermanent. Each moment offers itself to us like a gift. May we be mindful, grateful for all we are given. Each moment invites us into pleasure and savoring. May the deep springs of laughter and contentment bubble to the surface. These are the days we are given. May we take care to cherish them. May we do our best not to waste a single drop of the energy that rises like the sap when our bodies and minds awaken to life, awaken to joy. Our reading today is The Lotus Flower by Amy Pastori. The lotus flower grows deep in the muddy waters, far away from the sun. In time, the lotus reaches the light and transforms into a beautiful flower. It's regarded in many different cultures as a symbol of purity, enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth. The lotus plant is able to draw nourishment from the murky waters to present a beautiful flower. The potential for that bloom lies hidden deep within the core of the plant, well before its unfolding. Its characteristics are a perfect metaphor for the human condition. We forget that we are divine beings. We have our own seed of potential within our hearts. We can all relate to feeling stuck in the mud at times, life's challenges and times of struggle. It's easy to recognize how we can be inspired by our positive experiences when life is easeful and clear. The lotus flower reminds us that even in situations that are, well, let's say, a bit muddy or difficult, we have the freedom to choose how we view those experiences. Our obstacles can be looked at, accepted, and transformed into openings. We have the power to juice from them, something potent that will bring us closer to remembering our true nature and foster that process of unfolding. Without the mud, we would not have the experiences necessary for our own growth. When we awaken to the idea that we create our own reality based on how we view the world, we choose to grow, to reach toward the light and bloom. So earlier this week, I saw an exchange on a friend's Facebook page. One of my friends posted this delightful little mind experiment where you list in order of preference the candy bars that you get in that bag of Hershey's miniatures. So my order is Special Dark, Crackle, Milk, Mr. Goodbar, just in case you're wondering. But what was interesting to me about this exchange is that, after a few of us had answered the question, somebody came on and said, how can you do something like this at a time like this? Where, when there are people who are sick and people who are afraid and people who are hurting, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Well, I feel like at times like this is exactly when we need to find those things, those little things that give us joy and make us laugh and lighten our spirits and keep our hearts beating. These are times when it's so important to pay attention to our own resourcing, our spiritual resourcing, so that we can stay whole and not sink too deep into the mud. Now, we're in a time of year, it's spring. It's a time of rebirth and awakening. A lot of people who have like seasonal affective disorder are finding their way back to their best selves. It's interesting though, May is actually a month where that's the highest month in the year in terms of people committing suicide, because sometimes for people who can't come back, they see everyone around them coming back from the winter doldrums, and they think there's something wrong with them and it's never going to get better. So I just want to preface the whole rest of the service by saying, if you're one of those people and you're struggling, or if you know somebody who you see who is still really struggling, please reach out. This is a time to be careful of ourselves and each other. But for most of us, this time of year brings with it this resurgence of joy. And joy is a key source of both resilience and strength in good times and in bad. So the invitation that I'm offering to all of you today is to really focus on reawakening joy. Oh, Nick's hay fever is kicking in. Well, that's what antihistamines are for. So what are the steps that we take to awaken joy? And the first and most important step is to decide that that's what we want to do. We make the choice. We are going to work on being more joyful. Like anything else, it takes practice. I love the line in Max Ehrmann's Desiderata that talks about beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. The choice to be joyful, or the choice to find joy or look for joy or offer joy, is part of that wholesome discipline. One thing that can help in making the choice and maintaining the discipline is actually choosing a joy buddy. So you can choose someone and check in with them every day and share whatever happened during the day that brought you joy, or a way that you were able to offer someone else a moment of joy. And then if you have a day where you're having a hard time getting there, you have somebody who you can check in with about that as well. So once you've decided, the next step in awakening joy is to work on non-attachment. We have this tendency to become attached to what we think should be happening. And especially this year, there's this huge disruption to all of our usual spring activities and rhythms. Everything is different, and those shoulds are more toxic than ever. Sometimes we also get attached to outcome. We worry about the future. And we need to remember that's not something we can control. We can make the best choices available to us in the present, but we have no control over the future and what is going to come. So non-attachment really is a practice of doing your best and then letting it go. Do your best, let it go, over and over again. And then the third step is to really focus on coming into the present moment. This is a practice of mindfulness. Earlier this week, I was washing my hands for the 3 gazillionth time. And I had this lovely bar of lavender goat milk soap that my sister had given me as a gift, and I was rubbing it, and it was so soft, and it smelled nice, and I felt connected to my sister, and I felt connected to the soap, and it was really deeply pleasurable and enjoyable to wash my hands. So even simple things, if you bring an awareness, a sense of mindfulness and being embedded in that present moment, it can bring up joy. I mean, if washing my hands can bring me joy, I'm telling you, anything will do it. I think we should keep doing the springtime things that are available to us. And we need to do them with that intention of enjoying them. So I was usually, one of my favorite things about the summer is I have flower boxes on my front porch, and I fill them with beautiful perennials, and I water them every day, and I deadhead them. And anyway, it gives me a lot of joy. And this year I sort of assumed that I wouldn't be able to get any of my flowers to plant because the nursery was going to be closed because it's a non-essential business. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to learn how to grow my own starts. Just for the reference, for your reference, Moscow Building Supply counts as an essential an essential business. So you may still be able to get your perennials, but whatever. I decided I was going to try growing them from seed this year, which I've never done before. So this is a learning curve, another learning curve. And my bathtub is currently full of these teeny tiny little, like 1/2-inch tall green sprouts. And let me tell you about joy. The first day I had my first sprout, I could have just, I was walking on air. It was almost like having a baby, but not quite. So I think we need to do the springtime things that are available to us and do them with that intention of finding joy. So we can still do our gardening. We can go on hikes. We can even go on hikes together as long as we stay 6 feet apart. But even just looking up and feeling the sun on your face, or the smell of the springtime air, or that first warm day when it feels like the wind or the breeze is just kind of wrapping itself around you in like a quilt, those are sources of joy. And then, as if that weren't enough, the flowers are coming back. The flowers are coming back, and we get to see them, the crocuses and the hyacinths, and then the tulips, and it's my favorite thing about spring. I guess I don't have allergies. Well, I do have allergies, but I take antihistamines. If outside stuff and gardening and flowers aren't your thing, Zena says the forsythia's out. It's hard for me to read the chat when I'm talking. So if I miss your comment, I'm sorry. If flowers aren't your thing, there's always baking. assuming you can find flour and sugar and all the things, which I think in most places you can. If anybody's short on sugar, let me know. My boys brought home a 25-pound bag. I don't have any idea what we're going to do with 25 pounds of sugar, but that was all they had in the store, so I have 25 pounds of sugar. So if baking is your thing, this is a great time for baking. And then listening to the beautiful music, watching the beautiful videos, the inspiring videos and the funny videos, laughing, those virtual dance parties, you know, that are surprisingly enjoyable. But I think actually the greatest way that we bring joy and color to the world is creating. Spring is a time when our urge to create and to express what's inside us again bubbles to the surface. So if you write, if you paint, if you draw or sing, draw and sing, tell stories, and just know it doesn't have to be any good. It doesn't have to be any good. The word amateur means love, right? It comes from the root ama, which is just to love. So do what you love, and who cares what the results look like? If the intent is to offer the world your love and gratitude and celebration, then that gift from your heart will be experienced as beautiful. Now, I can practically hear some of those among you saying, you know, it's not really spring yet. It snowed this week and it's cold and gray and rainy and miserable out. And I am a New Hampshire native, and so I know before spring you have to get through mud season. And mud season means unpredictable weather and a lot of rain and soggy ground. And in our lives, you know, our parents of kids are trying to figure out how to keep their kids safe and themselves sane at the same time. And that is not an easy task, an easy thing. All of us are still figuring out this new normal. But early spring, and it's okay. So it's okay to feel muddy. It's okay to still not quite be there. But spring is a time to plant seeds, like my bathtub full of sprouts. It's a time to choose what we want to grow in our lives, to choose how we want to grow. Now, I don't know if we have any parents left with us, but I just want to say, here's a news flash for your kids. This spring is not going to be a time of fantastic academic achievement. That is not the kind of growth that I would try to prioritize right now. But it could be a time where they learn how to play with actual things instead of just a screen. It could be a time when they learn how to cook, when they learn how to do chores and help be responsible for the house. It could be a time when they learn how to tend the garden, how to take care of pets. It could be a time when they actually figure out what their parents do for a living. It could be a time when they learn what I think is actually the most important thing, which is that their parents are people with feelings who sometimes make mistakes and occasionally even lose it completely, and who then calm themselves down and come back and will love them no matter what. For the rest of us, for those of us who don't have kids or don't have little kids, I want this to be a time of self-resourcing, self-nurture, and self-care, as well as community resourcing and community care. We can plant seeds in ourselves for things like spiritual practice, emotional regulation, intellectual curiosity. This is a time for us to plant seeds to develop our strength and resilience, to work on finding inner peace and equanimity. Like the lotus, we can use this muddy time to sink our roots deep. We can draw on our connection to the earth, draw on our connection to our community, whatever your particular sources of nourishment and inspiration are. This is a time to draw deep, root deep, and then rise. Rise up toward the sun. Be a light. Awaken to joy, and let your life and your light bloom. So be it, and so may it be.